Stanford University, it was the third or fourth week of camp. We were about where teams are right now. Right before the season, everybody's pissing and moaning. We had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator named Rocky. He finishes his speech and he goes, "Hit it, Rock!" And Set It Off by Boosie Badass played. As a young white man, it was my first time hearing that song, Set It Off. Yeah, we finna set it off. You heard me? I'm finna put you in the trash bag. Tired of all these knowing me right now, for real. You wanna talk shit? You wanna run your mouth? You want some gangster strut your mother in the house? We'll set this job. Yeah. And that was my first time hearing Set It Off. At Sanchez University, it was the third or fourth week of camp. We were about where teams are right now. Right before the season, everybody's pissing and moaning. We had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator. I'm muted. And here we go. Feels good to be back. Feels good. Let's go now. What it is, what it ain't, what it should be. Welcome back to another beautiful Monday here on In the Jar. Welcome to the program. We got a good bit to talk about considering all the fun outcomes we saw happening during college and pro football this week. My Cincinnati Bengals have been outscored 104-16 in the last three games. And we look at a season that looks to be largely lost throughout the AFC North, not just with the Bengals. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting pretty at the top of the division, gaining a half a game on everybody this Sunday. My Bengals, it just looked like a joke of an organization. And a lot of people were calling the things that Zach Taylor was going to say in the post-game presser and nailing it to a T. Things like, we got a lot of football left. I'm proud of how this team fought. All these fucking water cooler responses that are clearly not genuine. They're clearly robotic. And I think the discourse online is starting to wake up to the fact that this is a Bengals front office problem, and you can't fix the front office. You can't fix ownership. You can't fix entitled, nepotism-fueled lawyers that marry into the family and don't know anything about football, but have the ego and the narcissism to feel like they need to chime in on personnel decisions, feel like they need to make sure that our organization has the smallest scouting department in all of pro football. And something staggering was said on Pat McAfee's show this morning by Andrew Whitworth. If you look back to 2011 with the Cincinnati Bengals, you have to go back that far. That's 14, almost 15 years that you have to go back to find an offensive lineman that was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals that got a second contract in the league. They are not anywhere close to competent when it comes to drafting in any capacity, but the biggest shortcoming you'll find with this Cincinnati Bengals scouting department, with this Cincinnati Bengals de facto GM, Duke Tobin, what you'll find if you look over the years is that they are specifically incompetent at drafting offensive linemen, evaluating talent with offensive linemen and interior defensive linemen. And those two position groups are quite literally the basis of the entire game. It's not fun to sit down and evaluate offensive line tape. It's not fun. It's fun for me to sit down and evaluate interior defensive line tape. And it's not easy to have the eye, to have the acumen, to have the smarts to be able to say, this guy produced in college, he'll probably produce in the league. It might be easy. It might be simple. I'm not somebody that does that for a living. But some of these incompetent-ass people that sit up in their suites in Cincinnati are. And the argument continues to persist around this season being a prime showcase of how special of a player Joe Burrow really is. We've talked about this on the show before. There's certain players, especially the quarterback position, that come into a dysfunctional organization and they crumble. And that's the mass majority of young cats that are shoved to the forefront of leading an organization as a rookie. But then you have special players like Joe Burrow who come in and actually do the opposite, and they elevate everybody around them. And this season's a complete showcase of that for the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think that there's any excuse for Jake Browning to be starting this coming Sunday against Green Bay. There's zero excuse. And Zach Taylor said it himself in his presser yesterday. We will know who our starting quarterback is by Wednesday. By the time practice commences Wednesday, we will know who our starting quarterback is. Other guys in the room right now, Brett Ripien, I think is his name. Brett Ripien, Mike White, and Sean Clifford. And if you know anything about the Cincinnati Bengals, you know that they are very preferential to people that are already in the building. So could you imagine watching Mike White suit up this Sunday as the starting quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals? It's already pretty bad, but it's only poetically Cincinnati. It's only poetically Bengals-esque for it to get even worse. And you got two quarterbacks in the New York Giants room that aren't playing right now that could be fits. Everybody says, let's see Jameis, let's see Jameis, let's see Jameis. But I'm telling you guys, this Cincinnati Bengals front office will do the exact opposite of what everybody else thinks is cool or what everybody else thinks is functional, just because in their heads they feel like they're a little smarter than you. They're a little smarter than everybody else. They're going to do the exact opposite. I'm sick of this team. I haven't watched. It hurts me too bad emotionally to watch this team. There were some old heads talking on social media last night saying that this is what every week was like for the entire 90s. Run by the same ownership group, mind you. This is what every week looked like in the 90s. And I just have a hard time accepting that. The window is Joe Burrow's career, the window for a Super Bowl, and I fear that Joe Burrow might have already passed his prime. I pray to God I'm wrong. Jamar Chase with 3 tackles, 4 receptions, and 3 tackles in the first half. Jake Browning threw some god-awful interceptions. Again, the guy's got no confidence. His confidence is shot. He needs to be taken out back. And that's just what it is, man. I don't even have it. I got my notes. I make my notes for every episode. I don't have the Bengals. I don't have one Bengals note on here other than 104-16 in 3 games. That's how bad the Bengals have been outscored in 3 games. And what I think is the worst part is that this Lions game yesterday would have been winnable with Burrow. This defense that Cincinnati has, they're not great. I don't even know if they're good. But if we had this defense playing the way they're playing right now last season, I don't want to be if man. I don't want to get into hypotheticals that aren't real life. But I just want to paint the picture as to what kind of pain it really is to be a Cincinnati Bengals fan and a Cincinnati sports fan in general. If you put this defense, you copied and pasted this Bengals defense onto last year's team, you're looking at a division winner, you're looking at a Super Bowl contender, you're looking at a team that does not miss the playoffs. And this year, the offense can't bust a freaking grape. I almost cussed. The offense can't bust a freaking grape, dude. And it's very frustrating to me because you don't really see this season so far a quarterback with supreme dominance in this league. This would have been Joe Burrow's year to win an MVP. And again, I don't want to be if man, okay? The inner fan is speaking right now on this podcast, not the analyst, the fan. I want to be clear on that. Okay, but you're looking at a Joe Burrow MVP year because it's wide open this year. The AFC North is wide open. The Ravens are tanking. They're terrible. The Browns are the Browns. And so you see Pittsburgh sitting atop the division, and they gain a half game on everybody yesterday because everybody else in the division lost. And the Steelers are off. So it's really, really frustrating. And I don't, like I said, I don't even watch these games. I catch little snippets of it. Like I was driving up for a round of golf yesterday, and I was just turning on the Cincinnati broadcast, local Cincinnati broadcast, just to check in on the game. And I mean, it was over before it started. And it was clearly over. I can't remember. The score was just completely lopsided at one point. And these Cincinnati announcers, I know they're getting paid by the powers that be, this, that, and the other. They're saying, oh, there's a lot of ball left. There's a lot of ball left. There's a lot of ball left. I can't stand these freaking homers, man. I can't stand it. Just say, hey, we're done. We're out. You guys can go ahead and check on out. I don't want to waste y'all's time. That's what I really admire about the UFC commentators. Joe Rogan and them, if a fight's bad, they're just going to be like, yeah, this sucks. These guys are not, this is not a good fight right now. Or this is over. You know? And then we have the on the other end of the spectrum, we have a guy named Eric Collins who was calling the Panthers-Dolphins game yesterday. This guy is a juice machine. He's an electric factory, dude. I did some research. Apparently, he's the play-by-play guy for the Charlotte Hornets, and I guess they called him in to do the Panthers game yesterday. And this guy's electric. There's people naysaying this guy Eric Collins today, saying it's insufferable. He's screaming on every play. You know, he sounds like he's having an orgasm every play. I love it. Because that's how passionate people should be about football that are calling the game, man. I think there was some old clip. I always think about it. It was the University of Central Florida, and there was this quarterback named McClain. And he dropped back, and he was running around the pocket for like 15 seconds. And the play was becoming more and more improbable. And the whole time, this commentator, Eric Collins, is going, McClain! What do you got? McLean! And then he finally throws it up, and he goes, it's caught! McLean! And I always think about that clip. I never knew the guy's name. I just knew the clip. And then as I was listening to the Dolphins-Panthers game yesterday, I was kind of like, this guy's voice, his excitement, his vibe, it all kind of, it sounds pretty similar. And so I went into the rabbit hole, and I watched this guy's Hornets calls, and it's just unbelievable. Eric Collins. You need more guys like this calling games, man. And the fact that these freaking twerp nerds are out there saying, you know, I can't stand to listen to this guy. Just say you don't love football. You know what I mean? Just say that, dude. Oh, this Eric Collins guy. Like, I saw this other podcast, and it's clearly just people trying to be contrarian. Being contrarian is cool, by the way. But when you try too hard to be contrarian, like the Bengals front office, they try too hard to be contrarian. These guys that are saying Eric Collins isn't the guy to call football games, they're just being contrarian because they think it'll score them clout or intellectual points by being contrarian. No, you can only be contrarian if you're just contrarian, if that makes sense. So I don't know. It's just nice. This football season as a fan has been so painful watching the Bengals that it was kind of nice to tune that out, go to the Dolphins-Panthers game, and listen to Eric Collins call this thing on the play-by-play. I really hope they start having him back more. It seems like he calls a lot of college games, does all the Charlotte Hornets games in the NBA, but I'd love to see him calling more. Florida beat the shit out of Texas in Gainesville. There was not one position, I thought, where you could say Texas looked better than Florida. I thought Texas was going to win. I called it on the show on Friday. I thought Texas was going to win. I didn't think Florida would be able to score any points, but Arch Manning, dude, just looks lost. The guy's missing throws. I saw clips of Arch Manning resurfacing from when he was in high school, and they're pointing out the lack of competition that he played against, and largely people are starting to think that Arch Manning has gotten all this hype just based on the clout of his family. And I can't disagree with it. You know, the only spot that Florida looks bad at is quarterback, which is funny because this DJ Lagway guy got all this hype, and it's the most glaring position on the University of Florida's roster right now. So if Napier's able to get that quarterback position fixed, that Florida job is going to be the hottest job in America when Napier gets fired. Okay, Florida, next 3 games, they've got Texas A&M, who beat the shit out of Mississippi State, and I thought Mississippi State was a good team. I thought Lebby had those boys ready to go. I actually bet Mississippi State plus 17.5 points. Didn't hit, much to my displeasure. It's kind of fun to hate on A&M. Every Texas A&M alumni I meet, they're very culty, they're very weird, it's kind of borderline gay. So I've been enjoying hating on Texas A&M a little bit. So part of my bet was probably a hate bet, but about 70% of me taking Mississippi State was looking at their performance against Tennessee the week before. And I really thought Mississippi State not just had a chance to cover the spread, but win. And they ended up doing neither in College Station, Texas there. But, so Florida's got A&M. They've got Mississippi State, who I believe could beat Florida. And then they've got Georgia. I'd be shocked. This win against Texas definitely bought Billy Napier, the head coach of Florida, some time. But Billy Napier is definitely getting fired in the next 4 weeks. May have bought him up to 6 weeks, this win. I thought if they lose this game, he probably gets fired now. But he bought himself some time with that win. Florida looked good. They looked prepared. They made some they made some plays on special teams. There was a series of events where Arch Manning on third down had a wide open guy running a seam route, gets hit, completely overthrows the guy, and then Texas brings the punt team out. Florida blocks it. They get a safety, and it was just disastrous all the way around. When you make plays on special teams, when you're blocking punts, when you're forcing turnovers, and getting points on defensive special teams, it's statistically your odds of winning go sky higher as opposed to the opposite. Your chances of winning go way down when you give up punt blocks, when you give up points when you give up points to the defense, etc. So that was kind of the game I focused on a lot. I had the quad box going, so that window I think I had Florida and Texas. I had Bama and Vandy. And let's talk about that game a little bit. Everybody's saying it's a revenge game for Alabama. It is by far the most contentious Alabama-Vanderbilt game that I can ever remember. And I think that's a testament to NIL and parity in college football. NIL, it's not all bad, right? But you saw clips of Diego Pavia in warm-ups, kind of shaking and moving. You had Johnny Manziel down there on the sideline wearing a Pavia jersey. Okay, you had Manziel walking up to Ty Simpson after the game when Ty Simpson was getting interviewed, shakes his hand saying, "You played good ball, brother." And a lot of people were saying Ty Simpson was wondering, who the fuck is this guy? He looked homeless off the street. Why the hell is he? What's he doing down here on the field? Manziel was talking shit all game to Bama fans, by the way. I was seeing clips of it all over Twitter. Manziel just yapping at people, yapping at Bama fans. And listen, I lived in Birmingham for 4 years. I can say that there's a pocket of Bama fans who are borderline insufferable. Roll Tide Willie's not one of them, if you were wondering. There's a pocket of Bama fans that are pretty annoying. I remember sitting in a Buffalo Wild Wings in Birmingham one time, and I can't remember who Alabama was playing, but Alabama was playing someone. The place was packed with Crimson Tide jerseys, a lot of copies of Roll Tide Willie sitting in there. Let's just say that. But a lot of them weren't as cool as Roll Tide Willie might be. And I remember one of my buddies, they kind of muttered, "War Eagle." And one of them stood up and looked over. It was like, "You trying to fight over some college football, boy? You trying to scrap over that? I heard what you said about Auburn. I heard that War Eagle chant. You trying to scrap?" He just stood up and stared. And every yard Bama gained, it was just an eruption, And I've kind of heard some, I wouldn't call it slander, but I would definitely call it, skepticism about Bama's home atmosphere, their home environment. It's really, I think it's hard to sustain a good home environment in college sports when everybody just expects the team to be perennially good. I experienced this growing up in Lexington, Kentucky, watching Calipari's teams when they had John Wall and all this stuff. And now, look, I'm not going to compare Kentucky basketball to Alabama. I don't think you can. I think the championships that Bama's football program brought in are staggering compared to the one championship that I've seen Kentucky basketball win in my lifetime. But what I will say is what I noticed about Kentucky basketball is over the years, the fans stop knowing how to deal with adversity because they're so familiar with winning. And so when your team gets in a rough spot and they might need you most, you're just sitting back in your seat waiting for the team to do something good when you got to get on your feet and start raising hell, making it hard on that other team. So I think you see a little bit of that with Bama's home crowd in football. I think you see a little bit of that You know what I mean? Just like sitting back, maybe not getting as loud when the team kind of needs you. Now, they got the win. They got a convincing win. Ty Simpson looks like he's woken up. The offensive line looks like they've woken up. Trying to see if there's any notes or anything I missed on that game. But it was a resounding win for them. Thought it was weird that Manziel just decided to show up to that game. And that guy, look, Johnny Football, he's got a sideline pass anywhere he wants to go in college football, especially SEC, I'm sure. I thought that was kind of weird, though, showing up in a Pavia jersey. Let's see. Oh, and then another thing, man, I saw a quote from Steve Spurrier that said, if Arch Manning was so good, why didn't they play him over Quinn Ewers for 2 years? So if Steve Sarkisian's willing to die on that Arch Manning hill, so be it. But he might be out of a job, dude. Texas started the season number 1, and now they're going to be unranked. And speaking of upsets, I think we had the biggest upset of the year in college football this week, and I think we had the biggest upset of the year in pro football this week. We'll talk about both of them. We'll talk about the college version of that right now. UCLA beat the brakes off of Penn State. You got a complete interim staff sitting in there at UCLA. You've got the poster child for NIL throwaways in Nico Imalaleva. They're 0-4. Before the start of this game, UCLA hadn't led in a game for a single second the entire season. UCLA came into this game against Penn State as 25.5-point underdogs. And they had a kid, Jerry Neuheisel, calling the plays, who had never worn a headset before. You think about that. He had never worn a headset before stepping onto the field for this game against Penn State. What does this say about James Franklin and his program? First of all, I don't think James Franklin has ever had elite quarterback play at Penn State. I don't think Drew Aller is really an elite guy. I don't see him having getting a second contract in the NFL or nothing. But this is a game that you cannot lose. But on the other side of it, for UCLA, these guys were probably thinking all week, we've got nothing to lose. Let's lay it out there on Saturday. And that's exactly what they did. And that's exactly why I feel like using emotions to your advantage, channeling your emotions in football as a team, as an organization, as a coach, being an expert of spinning a narrative a certain way. I'd be shocked if there was any other narrative in that UCLA building all week other than, hey, motherfuckers, we got literally nothing to lose. Everybody's expecting you guys to get killed. How are you going to respond? And they responded, man. That was one of the other games I had in my little quad box, just because I was so shocked at what was going on. Listen, I'm the first guy to be hating on Nico Imalaleva. I can't even pronounce his freaking last name. You know, the kid's dad stepping in at the table on every NIL deal this kid's doing, and he probably shouldn't have left Tennessee. But he did because he's got people like his dad in his corner saying, oh, no, bro, you're him. Don't listen to that coach. You're him. Probably a street agent in the mix. If his dad's not his agent, you're him, bro. Don't listen to them motherfuckers. You're him, dude. You're him. Meanwhile, he hadn't really done anything to be him, you know, other than be a 5-star high school recruit or whatever. So it's just different. Trying to think if there's any other college football things we wanted to touch on. Georgia whooped the shit out of Kentucky. Not a surprise. I came on here and I said that that's always a battle. It wasn't a battle in any capacity. Georgia beat the shit out of Kentucky. We covered Mississippi State A&M. Game we mentioned on Friday, most underrated game of the week to me, was Virginia versus Louisville. And that game fulfilled all the hype that we gave it. It was an overtime game. University of Virginia ended up coming out on top in overtime against undefeated Louisville in Louisville, Kentucky, over there at the old, I don't know what they call it nowadays, but back when I was in college, it was Papa John's Stadium, baby. Big Papa John Shatner getting hammered up in the suite every week. I don't know. Maybe he's sober these days. I've seen a lot of drunk pictures of Papa John Shatner over the years, or however the hell you say his name. We covered Florida, Texas. We covered Bama, Vandy. Mississippi State, Texas A&M was a shit show. I thought Mississippi State would play a lot better. My wallet definitely did. And that's kind of the college football recap there. I know the title and the thumbnail have got Mark Sanchez on it, so we'll go into that right now. Mark Sanchez, I think it was Saturday evening. Sometime Mark Sanchez was supposed to call the Colts-Raiders game in Indianapolis. So I remember when I worked in Indianapolis, the press crew for the games each week would get into town like Tuesday or Wednesday. I remember seeing Clark Kellogg, guys like that, even what's the Chargers tight end's name? I'm going to get so much flack for Antonio Gates. You know, guys like that who were part of the commentary crew would come into town, come in the building, sit down with coaches. I remember seeing Clark Kellogg and all these different guys. Greg Gumbel, all these guys like sitting down in our Colts cafeteria with guys like Sirianni, Frank Reich, getting juice for their call that week. So I don't know exactly when Mark Sanchez got into Indianapolis to call this game. So I think I got the news that he got stabbed Saturday morning, Saturday evening, or maybe Sunday morning. I think it was Saturday night he went out and got sloppy. And the headline comes out that he gets stabbed. And there's a former IU coach, former Indiana coach, immediately tweeting after this headline is broken. Really bad look. He tweeted about fatherless black kids in Indianapolis. And it turns out the guy that stabbed Mark Sanchez was a 69-year-old white truck driver collecting grease cans down at the hotel. And Mark Sanchez just sloppy drunk the night before he's supposed to call a game, getting into altercation with a greasy old 69-year-old Indiana truck driver. Okay, so apparently Sanchez was hammered. He was at St. Elmo's earlier that night, the steakhouse down there in Indianapolis with the big shrimp cocktail. That shrimp cocktail, Mark Sanchez might have got drunk off that damn shrimp cocktail down there at St. Elmo's in Indianapolis, dude. You know what I mean? That horseradish is damn strong, boy. That damn horseradish will have you head whizzing a little bit. They'll have you seeing double a little bit, that horseradish. But God, it's good, baby. It is good. But Sanchez was drunk as hell. He's smelling like liquor. Apparently he followed this guy, tried to get in his rig. Okay? And then, according to sources that I've heard from, Mark Sanchez threw a bottle at the back of this driver's head and chased him barefoot down an alley. So this driver he stabbed him in self-defense. They had to staple Mark Sanchez up in jail, man. And now he's looking at a level 5 felony battery. He's definitely going to lose his job as a commentator. He's probably going to go to prison for 2 to 3 years off of this. And all because of some liquor, dude. All because of some damn liquor Mark Sanchez This is why I don't drink, boys and girls. This right here. Give me this commentary job. I'll kill it for you. I ain't playing the pro game or nothing like that, but I'm not going to be getting drunk at St. Elmo's the night before I'm supposed to call a game and then getting into an altercation with a Indiana truck driver just trying to collect some grease cans down at the what'd they call it in Trailer Park Boys? Down at the ravine, you know what I mean? It's crazy. So I don't know if it's that he threw a bottle at him. I don't know what legally constitutes it as this felony battery charge, but I mean, get your damn wits about you. There's obviously other areas of Mr. Sanchez's life that are probably going unfulfilled for him to feel like he's got to go out and get hammered at freaking St. Elmo's the night before he's got a game to call, man. You know what I mean? So that's where we're at on that. Give me an opportunity like that. See if I'd be getting hammered the night before. You know, this is the downfall of the liquor, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing good about getting sloppy drunk as an adult human. There's nothing good about it. It's going to deplete your cells. It's going to cause you to make decisions like this, throwing bottles at the back of a white truck driver's head. And let's not overlook the fact that a big media personality, Dan Dakich, really the only reason he's relevant in this discussion is because he came out and said something out of pocket, talking about fatherless black kids in Indianapolis before he even knew what the deal was. Got to hold your tongue a little bit, you know what I mean? Can't say shit like that until you know the facts. And even saying shit like that, I think, just creates more division. And I think people are more sensitive. I think people are probably more racist these days than they've ever been in human history, in American history. And I'm not just talking about a certain pocket of folks. I'm talking about everybody. Just seems... It seems like racial undertones are thrown into everything. The way someone plays football, the way someone talks about people playing football, politics, everything is about race. You got guys like RG3 who clearly nobody likes, kind of race baiting people. Ryan Clark's been accused of it. Now, I do think Ryan Clark does some great work. I think some of his takes are a little bit crazy sometimes, but he earned his stripes. He played the game at a high level. He deserves to speak on the game, and I think he does offer some good takes most of the time. But when you throw race into things, it kind of distorts everything. And Dan Dakich tweeting this before he knew the details of the Mark Sanchez situation is a prime example of that. I'm realizing in real time I'm on YouTube, and I got to be careful talking about this shit. If we were on Rumble, man, we let it rip. But, you know, that's just what it is. I don't know if I have much more to add on that. I feel like I got to kind of expound on that endlessly because it is in the thumbnail. It is in the title. But I just want to speak on the facts of the situation. Those are the facts of the situation I know to be true. And Mark Sanchez is just acting like a jackass. You know, when you're in a position like him, you can't be just slamming liquor down there at St. Elmo's in Indianapolis. You can't do it. It's going to turn into some shit. And the people in Indianapolis, look, I lived in Indy for a year. I loved the people of Indy. I thought they had just enough grit, but also just enough niceness to them. But one thing you'll realize about people in Indiana is they are not to be fucked with. You do not fuck around with somebody in Indiana, especially while you're all liquored up. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter if you're the author of the butt fumble. You know, somebody's going to handle you down there in Indianapolis. If you're talking sideways out of your mouth, they'll be nice to you until you ain't nice to them, and then they'll handle it. I always loved Indianapolis. I never had a problem with people in Indianapolis. And even when I lived in Indianapolis, I was at a period of my life where I was still going down on the town getting liquored up. I never had a problem with someone like that. So then you wonder, in the case of Mark Sanchez, was it kind of a sense of entitlement? You know, people always say when you get liquored up, your true thoughts, your true emotions start to simmer to the top. Does Mark Sanchez feel entitled to act like a jackass? My answer would be yeah, because he did. Got liquored up and started treating somebody that he drunk or sober, probably felt like the guy was lesser than. And now you're paying the consequences. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Let's get to the pro games, and then we'll probably send you guys packing. Speaking of that Raiders-Colts game, Indy absolutely blew the Raiders out of the water. In past weeks, I thought the Raiders looked like a decently put-together football team. All those thoughts and feelings were completely debunked watching this game on Sunday. I was sitting there watching this game wondering if the game of football has passed Pete Carroll by. You think about a lot of these old head coaches, these legendary coaches that are still around, like Bill Belichick at North Carolina, Nick Saban obviously retiring, Pete Carroll, complete different style than those first two, but still fits into that pocket of OG legendary head coaches. The game's changed a lot, especially in the last couple of years, and I just wonder if somebody like Pete Carroll is able to run a cohesive organization at this phase of football. It's hard to say. Geno Smith is terrible. He's leading the league in interceptions with 8 picks. There's not a single player, and I feel like the Raiders front office has come up short as well. I think they had a chance to draft Jalen Carter, and can you only imagine Jalen Carter and Max Crosby next to each other up front? I think they had a chance on Bijan Robinson. They didn't take him. They let Josh Jacobs walk. They draft a guy like Aiden O'Connell instead. And now you're looking at a Raiders organization that I don't think has a top 10 player at any position other than Brock Bowers. And Brock Bowers didn't play yesterday. Not to take away from what the Colts are doing. Colts top to bottom, they got great players on offense right now. They got a solid offensive line. They've got still, I think, one of the best running backs in the game in Jonathan Taylor. His career has obviously been a little hampered by injuries, but every time that guy touches the ball, Jonathan Taylor's got a chance to score. Doesn't matter where the ball's spotted at. Every time he touches it, Jonathan Taylor's got a chance to score. I watched him juke guys out of their shoes. He's strong. He can run you over, and he's got breakaway speed. I still believe Jonathan Taylor's one of the best backs in the game. And then the receivers are great. You got Michael Pittman, you got Alec Pierce, you got Ashton Doolin, you got Josh Downs. You got 4 great receivers. I think all of the guys are solid wide receiver 2s on any other team in the league. And that's 4 receivers. And then you still got guys like Mo Alley Cox who have been there for a long time. One thing I admire about Indianapolis is when they find good guys, they recognize that those guys are good guys and they keep them around. A guy like Mo Alley Cox is a great example. He's been there since I worked in their front office 6 years ago. Guy's a huge Clydesdale horse of a human being, Mo Alley Cox. Pause on that whole sentence. How about that? I saw this Drake May Instagram page, by the way. It's just this guy that's a fan of Drake May, and he just posts really gay stuff about Drake May. Talk about how he wants to do things to him and stuff. I think it's pretty funny, though, actually. That's my sense of humor, you know, kind of being gay even though you're not gay. But when you're a fan of, I have similar thoughts and feelings about Joe Burrow sometimes when he's not hurt, you know, because I just love him so much, what he's done for Cincinnati. But he's not doing much for us right now with his turf toe. I'm hoping the Bengals can make a move and grab a quarterback and just kind of muster some kind of hype, some kind of spirit in the city, in the facility, because they're just flat. It's going to be brutal if they don't do anything, man. And it would be poetically Bengals to not do anything, even though everything's saying to do something. I saw a report a day or two ago that Deion Sanders isn't doing too well, man. Apparently he's got blood clots. He's getting a lot of health problems. I don't think Deion Sanders is going to be the coach of the Colorado Buffaloes in 2026. I think his coaching career is going to get cut short very soon by health problems. And I don't think Colorado's put together the type of team to really be worth staying around and weathering all these health issues for Coach Prime. Just something that stood out to me. And that's my hot take of the day, I guess, is Deion's not going to be the coach of Colorado next year. He's got too many health issues. Speaking of health issues, but Anthony Richardson's completely healthy. I was wondering if the Colts might try and trade for Anthony Richardson. I don't know if they'd get much in return for him, but maybe a seventh rounder. I mean, what a waste. When did they take Anthony Richardson? Number 4, number 5 overall or something like that? I think we've got to really, man, I know no GMs or scouts are watching this right now, but maybe one day they will. We got to stop making draft picks based on upside. We've got to stop looking at guys and saying, oh, he's 6'5", he's got a good frame, runs a 4.4, can throw the ball a mile, but he's only started 3 games in college. Let's use the number 4 overall pick on him. I'm not trying to dump on Anthony Richardson, but I think I've never been a scout in the NFL. I've never been a GM in the NFL. But it seems pretty simple if you look at the teams that have had success, teams like the Eagles. They draft guys who were productive in college. I'm not talking about like 4 or 5 crazy wow highlight clips off the film. I'm talking about, are they consistently doing their job and consistently producing based on what their job entails? Not a couple flashy plays on film, not great stats. Great stats help, but stats aren't really the game. Stats are a byproduct of playing the game. So I'll always be evangelical on this show about, hey, if you want to understand what's going on, watch the film. Don't be a stat merchant. I say that to people on Twitter all the time. Don't be a stat merchant. Everybody wants to just look at the stats and think they know the game just by looking at a box score. It helps to give context, but it's not everything. And I think a lot of people see it as everything. And I know that a lot of scouts, a lot of GMs, they're watching film because they know what's up. But even when you're watching film and you're evaluating talent, you can't just say, oh, this player looked incredible on 5 out of 30 plays. I'd rather have a guy that did his job on 30 out of 30 plays, but isn't as flashy. And organizations like the Cincinnati Bengals want to go for guys that are flashy. That's why they've been terrible about evaluating O-line, because they probably get bored watching the film and turn it to a guy that is, popping off the screen. You can't run a football organization evaluating talent that way. Washington Commanders beat the LA Chargers on the road. There was a punt return at the end of the half from Ladd McConkey that looked to be huge for the LA Chargers. It would have given them a 17-3 lead, but I think they roughed the punter, and you see this momentum swing that I think completely debilitated the Chargers for the rest of the game, where instead of a 17-3 lead on a great punt return by McConkey, you're looking at a 10-10 ball game. Or somewhere around there. I just realized the math didn't quite work out. But somewhere along there was a huge momentum swing. I think it affected the Chargers for the rest of the game. Jalen Hurts finally showed that he can sling the ball downfield, but the Eagles lose. They lose their first game of the year. I've been complaining, bitching, and moaning about Devontae Smith on my fantasy team, and he finally came up big, but the Eagles lose. I think the Broncos had a solid game plan. I think that fella on the defensive side for Denver, Bonita, is one of the most underrated defensive players in the league. He was making plays all day, and the Broncos go on the road and beat the hell out of the Philadelphia Eagles. I just think it's funny. I've been talking about Jalen Hurts almost every episode for the last couple weeks, saying he can't throw the ball downfield, and Eagles fans flood my comments on TikTok saying I don't know ball. And listen, yesterday, Jalen Hurts proved me wrong. He completed some big throws downfield, but what does it say when the first game you're throwing the ball downfield, completing balls downfield, that the Eagles lose their first game of the year? Got to give credit to Sean Payton. I think he's a legendary coach. I think he's one of probably the most underrated coaches in the league right now. Wish we had a guy like that running the show in Cincinnati. I really do. But again, the Bengals front office, they want to be all contrarian. They think they're smart by doing the opposite of what everyone says they should do. And again, that's forced contrarianism, which is actually worse than not being a contrarian. I would rank the hierarchy of thinking. The highest place you can get in terms of your thinking is true contrarianism. Then in the middle, it's non-contrarian. It's not ideal, but it's better than thinking you're a contrarian. And then at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of thinking, it's forced contrarianism. That's what the Bengals front office is. They're forced. They try to force the issue of being contrarian. And in doing so, they make even worse decisions than if they just weren't. Drake May coming down on a Sunday night. How about the New England Patriots? How about Stephon Diggs on his self-imposed revenge tour against the Buffalo Bills? Had some of the best years of his career in Buffalo, asked for a trade, they accommodate him, and Stephon Diggs comes into Buffalo with still a massive chip on his shoulder. He's staring over at the Bills during warm-ups like they slighted him somehow. I wasn't there, obviously, in Buffalo, in Western New York for Sunday Night Football. I'm sure the fans were maybe treating him a certain way. That might have fueled part of the behavior. But golly, Drake May goes into Buffalo with no weapons at all. He puts on a performance like that. I think it's a testament to Josh Daniels. I think it's a testament to where the game is headed in terms of the importance of having a mobile quarterback, a big quarterback that can move and play off schedule. And there's no better guy to develop quarterbacks. Tom Brady said this on the Fox panel yesterday, sitting next to Big Gronk. There's no better guy to develop a quarterback than Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels worked with the greatest quarterbacks you can think of. So that's my analysis there. The best uniform game possibly that we've seen in decades, the Seahawks and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers occurred yesterday, and the game was just as entertaining as looking at those uniforms. 38-35, the final score. I saw clips of Baker Mayfield talking shit to a Seahawks fan in the tunnel. Is Baker Mayfield now America's quarterback? I want to bring that question to the table. I think a lot of people would say, yes, he is. Resounding grit, an inspiring story of resilience in his journeyman career. He sticks it out. He finally finds his home in Tampa. And Tampa's a great organization, by the way. I have experience with them. I never worked for them, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the reason I ever got a job in the NFL. And a couple folks that used to work over there. They're a great organization, and the Glazers are a great ownership group. So it just makes sense that Tampa Bay is having the success they have. I think they are one of the most consistent, if not the most consistent teams in football right now. And they're fueled by Baker. They run on Baker. So I didn't get a chance to see much of that game, but I did see the clips of Baker talking shit. Looked like a great game. I'm going to have to watch it back. Trying to think of any other. We got Monday Night Football, Jags, Chiefs. And a couple years ago, if you asked me about a game like this, I'd say it's a joke. I'm not watching it, but this game actually has a lot of intrigue tonight. I think it's probably starting here in 30 minutes to an hour. I do have the Chiefs, but I think the Jags could put up a great fight, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Liam Cohen got the boys a win tonight somehow against the Kansas City Chiefs. A slumping Kansas City Chiefs team that doesn't seem to have a clear wide receiver one. So I don't know what the spread is. I didn't look at the spread or anything like that, but I'm sure it'll be exciting. But I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of things happen. It's great primetime game. Excited to watch it. Excited to recap it tomorrow on the show. Guys, make sure you subscribe if you've been around and you've enjoyed what we're talking about, or you're going to make me cry. We're the fastest growing football channel in the land. We're live every day, Monday through Friday, 6-ish Eastern. We got off a little late today. We're going to try to be better on being on time, letting you guys know exactly when we're going live so that you can catch the show every day. But if you can't catch the show live, you can either replay it right here on this channel, or you can listen to it in the car with your girlfriend on any audio platform you can think of. Literally any audio platform that provides podcasts, we are on, and we're updating that every day. But the main goal here is to grow here on YouTube. And so I need every single person in here that's watching that may not be subscribed, that is enjoying the program, to hit that subscribe button right now. I really appreciate it. This is something we plan on doing for a long time and something we plan on doing for a living. So every ounce of support matters, and we thank you for it. We also got live Madden streams on the channel every single day. I'm not sure if I'll have time. I think I'll have a second to hop on here after this, but I am heading to jiu-jitsu here in about 31 minutes. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. Hang around on the channel if you want to catch the Madden stream. If not, I will see you guys tomorrow on the show. Many thanks, and tell a friend about the show while you're at it. I really appreciate everybody's support, everybody popping in today.